Alrighty, Booneville Stomp. So, like many a Twang song, this song is going to have this feel in the right hand, like this kind of slap slap pop motion. But in this track, the pops are all going to be open D. So it kind of makes it a little similar to Winona in that regard. Now, while Booneville is a fairly simple song, in my opinion, what makes this one a little difficult to teach is the little inconsistencies, for lack of a better word, across the different versions. The Fungi and Foe version, the Forfeit Shack version, and of course the various live versions. So I'll go over a few examples here to show what I mean before we get into it here. So one is when to do the single slab versus the double slab. But a good rule of thumb here is single slaps when doing the vocals, double slaps when not doing the vocals. And then another variance to be aware of is hammer-ons or the lack thereof. As an example, in the performance I'm going to be looking at here, the verse bits go like this. So these kind of quick hammer-ons onto E10 here. Whereas elsewhere I've seen during the same verse part, instead of that, this like vibrato thing going on with the single slaps here. And then lastly, as far as variance goes, just where you throw in the E9 and the A8. We're especially going to see that in the bridge section, the guitar solo section, where there's quite a bit of jumping around in improv, a la Twang performances of Winona. Alright, without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to be looking at this version specifically. Okay, so he's going to slowly come in here, kind of on a softer. So here at E10, open D. And then a little hammer-on 9. And then 10, before we're back into it. And that same thing again, but with 2 hammer-ons on a 9 here. Okay, and then we're going to have 3 hammer-ons on A8, and then a 1 on E10. And some more down here. Then we have our first one of these. It's kind of hammer-ons on here, here, and then here. One of the more recognizable fills of this track. But I think you're beginning to see what I mean by lack of a pattern here. And then one more of our first fill before the vocals come in. So first chorus here, I guess I'll call it Stomp, Stomp, the Booneville Stomp. Starting out simple here, just with throws in a little bit of vibrato, but then he starts throwing in that kind of quick hammer-on mentioned earlier. And in the middle of the chorus, you're going to jump down and hit a E9 here, just a single slap, no hammer-on. And that is a pattern that is going to show up throughout the choruses of this song, that middle jump down to E9. And you'll also hit an E9 to close the chorus. It's pretty quick, like right after he's done with the vocals. Before you're, back to E10 here, to kind of throw some hammer-ons in there before the more melodic riff. So you'll be slapping open A, hammer on to 15. Again with the open D pops throughout here. And then down here to A12. And then you want to do A12 hammer on 14, pull off to 12. I try to make that pull off audible there. As mentioned earlier in the video, double slaps here because we're not in a vocals bib. And after that pull off, down here to A10. And then again, hanging on that A14. So yeah, when you're playing this, you'll want your left hand, or your right hand, your fretting hand. I don't know if there are any left-handed Claypool heads out there listening. You'll want that to be very claw, because on a bass like this, it's a bit high action. You should be really careful not to hit that open D string. You want to keep that ring now open. And then you'll want to do a A10 hammer on 12 down to A8. I'm pretty sure there's no pull off here. Really doesn't sound like it. So not A, but just A. Okay. So from the top. After you hit that A tier, that last one, no pop, just slap an E9. Again, no pop, and then we're just straight back to the. So like, sorry. So then returning from that melodic riff there. Right after, we're going to throw in one of those more notable, iconic fills. Okay, then we're into another chorus, again with those kind of quick hammer-ons on E10 here. So yeah, second chorus, nothing really new here. I'm going to close the same way with an E9 before some hammer-ons at E10 before returning to the melodic riff. And then our melodic riff again, this time with vocals. As mentioned before, single slaps this time. Just make it a little easier on yourself. If you have the balls to try to play and sing Les Claypool tunes at the same time, return to in the same way. But this time he sings as he does the iconic fill. So next we have all of that again, the melodic riff again, versus Say You Knew the Preacher Man, single slaps, ending the same way, coming back in, and then playing our iconic fill. Okay, then we have another chorus, and same as before, but then we're going to throw in this bit here. Just get a little more aggressive before the Booneville, Booneville. And then they're returning to that kind of vibrato. But then we're still going to close that the same way with our single E9, and then before going back into the melodic riff, this time without vocals, so double slaps here. However, this time around for the melodic riff, it's a little different. We're going to hang out on that A14 here. And then once more. And then jump down to the A10, and then hammer on up to 12, and then hang out on 8 for a little bit here. So from the top. And then like usual, just a single E9 with no pop, and then back to a, and then immediately back into our melodic riff here. This time with vocals, Robert lived with the Surleys, hanging out on our A14 again. And then after the word fast, you know you're going to do that a second time. And then on Now As Part of the Greasy Cast, you're going to kind of skip the, you're just going to jump back into this bit. So from here, just going to do slap at A8, 1, pop, E9 pop, and then back into it. Okie dokie, we have one more chorus here before it picks up in the faster bit. Only this time, instead of ending on an E9, you're just going to jump straight into the last bit of the melodic riff. A10, and then 10 hammer on 12, and then A8. And when you slap that A8 here, perfectly fine if your thumb grazes the string and kills that open D pop. In fact, that's kind of desirable because you don't really hear that open D ringing out, you hear the A8 here. Alright, and then into the faster bit, and that's going to start out like this. That E13, same thing as A8. And then he does this kind of muted little section here, so use your thumb to mute the E string here. Can ever so faintly hear the that little hammer on to E10 here. And And it throws in this kind of 9 hammer on 10. And we're going to do this walk down here like so. So some new notes here to E7 and E5. Sounds a little too major for this song, doesn't it? Okay, then we're going to finish up here on a, before getting into the final verse here. So once again, hammer-ons, single slaps here. So once again, watch out for each E9, which punctuate each bar here. Okay, and then the last section here, Very Far From Home, is going to go like this. Alright, so we have this chord here, down, up, shrum, and then E9 slap, open D, pop, and then back into the and then we end the song on one of those. Just let that open D ring out for 20 minutes. Alrighty, there you go. Booneville Stomp.